The views expressed on this show are those of the host, guests, and callers, and not those of radio station KICK, Vision Communications Incorporated, its management, or advertisers. Vision Communications Incorporated is not responsible for the validity or accuracy of information presented on this program.
Attention sports fans. Looking for the best in updates and interviews for your high school sports? Well, you found it. You're on board with the Scoreboard Guy.
Hey folks, certainly glad you've tuned in here to the Missouri Sports Network here, powered by KICK 92.3, sponsored by Great Southern Bank, Chevy Dealers of the Ozarks. The Missouri Highway Patrol reminds us, take that 3 seconds and buckle up. It's 3 seconds that could save your life. Be safe, be smart, and be here tomorrow. Shelter Insurance Agent Grant Baker in Aurora, the Bank of Billings, Played Against Sports, Central Bank of the Ozarks, and Doak Propane for all your propane needs. See the folks at Doak. I'll take a few minutes here and visit with Parkview Vikings head football coach and one of my favorite people to visit with, Ben Doherty. And Coach, it's always a great time to get to visit with you. And, last year was really, just a tough season. No quarterback club, all year long. But you guys, you got 6 games in, but, seemed to have been hampered pretty well by the pandemic. Now you've got summer. It's got to feel good to be able to have things on your schedule, things that you can do. You kind of work out this morning. How's it going so far this summer?
Well, first off, Guy, thanks for having me on. It's always great to be able to talk to you too. And yeah, definitely miss quarterback club, getting to, visit with all the other head coaches in town. But summer's been going fine. And you were right. We really got, and it was hard for everybody. It wasn't hard for just us. It was really kind of unfortunate. I think we were the first team to have to kind of forfeit the rest of our season when we got quarantined at the end of the year. I know we didn't end up being the only ones, but I think we were kind of first in that because it happened right after, I think, our 7th game. And with it being, the 14 days quarantine back then, that's kind of what ended our season. So we were able to get in 6 games. We had a good, strong senior class. We also played a lot of younger guys too. Throughout the year because of injuries and because of quarantines from COVID. So I feel like our summer's been going really well so far. I'm really happy with the development we're seeing from a lot of guys. We have our Viking team camp this week, and so far that's been going really well. Been seeing a lot of guys that are having to step up in spots, and being surprised by some people too. So it's been a really fun summer so far. We're ready to get back into action and kind of make up for lost time last year.
As coaches and, spending some time in that profession myself, we always look for opportunities for teaching moments, even when there's bad situations that occur. I've had athletes that have, torn their ACL and had to miss an entire season. We've gone through the pandemic where seniors lost their entire seasons. And a lot of times they learn a lot about themselves, about the game. What are some of those life lessons that you notice your kids have picked up, and maybe you even as a young coach learned from? What did you learn from this past season?
I think from the kids' perspective, and something we even talked about last year, was you can't take anything for granted. And that was kind of a theme that we went through with last year too, because we knew that there was a chance with how kind of the pandemic was going last year that we weren't guaranteed a game from week to week. That first week we thought we were going to be on a bye because Waynesville had to quarantine for a couple weeks. We ended up picking up Lighthouse Christian, but I think the kids realized that this could be taken away from them at any time, and it still can this year. We're not out of the woods yet when it comes to having to quarantine. If anybody were to test positive from COVID or anything like that. So that's something that I think the kids have learned. And for me, I think that to continue to have backup plans, as a coach, and any other coach can testify to this, you always have a plan A, B, C, D. I think what this has shown me is that you got to have plans for the backup plans, even going on beyond that. just because you never know when somebody's going to get hurt. You never know, especially right now, when somebody could get quarantined. Our starting quarterback, Caden Burks, got popped and had to quarantine because he was a secondary exposure. So he missed the first game against Lighthouse Christian. So we had to throw somebody in there, a backup quarterback, to be able to play. And that's just something that you constantly have to prepare for. So I think we're always prepared as a head coach. I'm always prepared for somebody to get hurt or that, but continuing to prepare for, even something as crazy as last year was.
We're visiting with Ben Doherty, the head coach of the Parkview Vikings. And Coach Doherty, this is powered by here 92.3 KICK, Springfield, Missouri, home of the Royals. Talk about your team coming into this season. What are some kids that you look to maybe step up? What some kids that you're going to have to replace? What are some of the expectations going into this season? And maybe some kids' names that we need to write down and kind of pay attention to what kind of season they have.
Right. Well, definitely, we've got some 3-year starters that will be 3-year starters this year on the team. Caden Burks, our quarterback, has been starting since he was a sophomore. He kind of got thrown into the fire as a sophomore and has been doing a really good job for us the last couple of years. So we're expecting big things from him since he only got to play 5 games last year. A couple other guys that are 3-year starters for us. Shane Glass at corner is also going to see some time at receiver for us. He's a big, tall, lanky kid, 6'4", 180. So he's kind of everything that you want in a defensive back. Carl Thomas is another good-looking kid, plays outside linebacker and running back for us. All 3 of those kids are seniors. Isaiah Farley is another kid that's a 3-year starter for us. He actually is going to be a 4-year letterman because he got some time at DB as a freshman, but he started at DB as a sophomore and then made the transition last year to kind of a utility, kind of a jack of all trades type kid for us. Play some receiver, play some running back. He'll play some DB as well. As far as kids we got to replace, Devin Holt was a 3-year starter for us on the offensive line. So we're looking at guys like Eric Anderson, who will be a 3-year starter as a junior for us at center. Covey Heslin is going to be a 2-year starter for us at tackle. Junior Lamar is another kid that's going to be a 3-year letterman at safety for us. There's tons of kids that we're really excited about. Kids that got to start last year and some kids that will be getting some playing time this year. A name I think for people to recognize will be Chris Anderson. Chris is our leading returning receiver, led us at receiving yards and receiving touchdowns last year. He's one of the fastest kids in the area. So we're really excited about him. But there's tons of guys that I could go on about that we're really, really excited about.
Coach, we're sitting, we're just 3 weeks maybe out of fall practices starting. What's your schedule look like now for the rest of the summer leading into that dead period?
Right. So we've got, like I said, we had our Viking team camp this week. That finishes out tomorrow. We're actually having a little youth mini camp next Monday and Tuesday. We got another team camp day on Wednesday, and then we're actually going out to Evangel on Thursday and Friday, the 22nd and 23rd, with our 10th through 12th graders to have a fun time out there with Coach Heppel and his staff and some other teams from the area. And then that last week of July, we've got some team camp days, and then we're finishing out. We're going back down to visit with one of my mentors and guys that I look up to, and Coach Hayes down at Branson in their camp on the 29th. So we're finishing up there on the 29th, and then the kids are off, and we start back up with fall practice on August 9th.
Outstanding. Coach, talk a little bit about, here in the last few minutes, your coaching staff. Did you retain everyone? I know you kind of stepped up from an assistant coach to a head coach, and I know that's everyone's goal.
Mm-hmm.
Who talk about some of the folks that are on your staff?
Yeah, so Jeff Klein and Scott Mitchell are 2 guys on my offensive staff that they're the 2 that have been here the longest. They've been here longer than I have, and I'm entering my 11th year here. Coach Klein's as experienced as they come. He's got head coaching experience at private schools in Tennessee, and he was head coach previously at Mountain View Liberty and Willard, and also has assistant coaching experience at Hillcrest. And then he's been here, I think this is his 16th year. I've got a great mix of experience and youth. Darius Blow is a guy that's going to step into a defensive play calling role for us this year. He's been here for 10 years now. He started at Missouri State as a player and played at Grandview up in Kansas City. And then I've got a couple actually alumni on staff as well in Joshua Deal and Greg Robinson. Greg and Josh both played offensive line for us here. Then I've actually been able to hire some new guys that we're excited about. Guys like Josh Henry is joining us from Louisiana. He's a very experienced coach. To Lacey Wilder and Dallas Hester, who some names some people might recognize because they both started Evangel, and Dallas also starred at Stratford High School a few years ago. And then really excited to get Brandon Newell is another guy that's going to be joining us from Lebanon. He played at Lebanon and then has coached the last couple of years at Marquette High School up in St. Louis. So I've got a good, healthy mix of veterans and youth, and so far we're meshing together very well, and we're very excited about that.
Kind of now just a little bit of a where are they now kind of segment. You keep track of the kids that have moved on. I know you've had some outstanding athletes there that have played it for you there at Parkview. Do you kind of keep tabs on those guys at all, or have any contact with them?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you mentioned that guy. I actually Blake Dela Cruz was up here a couple of weeks ago and visited with us. He's doing great down at Harding University. He's looking to get some playing time down there. So I'm excited to be able to go down there and watch him. Tyrone Newburn's actually a guy that played receiver for us, caught 15 touchdowns back in 2018 on that team that made it to the district championship game. He's actually kind of bounced around a little bit, but it looks like he's found a home actually here at Evangel here in town. He started showing up for them, and the coaches over there are really excited about him. So I'm excited to see him next week and then be able to watch him here in town. Ethan Day, another guy from that 2018 team, is at Independence Community College right now. He's shown up there and has done great as starting for them, but is looking to kind of move on to bigger and better things from there. So I'm excited to see what he does from there. And then Devin Holt and Anthony Green, two guys from last year's team, are getting to head up to Mid-America Nazarene with one of our former head coaches, Paul Hansen. So we're excited to see what they do over the next couple of years as well.
Outstanding. Well, Coach, as always, it's always great to visit with you. And, I appreciate you being generous with your time. I know you just got off the practice field and kind of hurried in and got your nice little logo back there behind you. So, hey, I appreciate your time. And, hey, best of luck. And I know we'll be visiting with each other again.
Yep, thanks, Guy. I always appreciate you having me on. It's good to talk to you. Thank you again.
You bet. Coach Ben Doherty, Parkview Vikings, brought to you by Central Bank of the Ozarks and the Missouri State Highway Patrol. We'll be back after this. Coach, we're done. We're clear.
Okay. Was the sound quality okay?
I think so. I had a couple of spots that jumped up that said it was low bandwidth, but we'll see what happens. We'll get her done. Thanks, Coach.
All right. Thanks, Guy. Let me know if you need anything else.
All right, you bet. Sports Network. I'm Guy Newcomb, the scoreboard guy, your host, powered by KICK 92.3, KICK, home of the Royals. Certainly glad you tuned in. And as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol reminds us to take that 3 seconds and buckle up. It's 3 seconds that could save your life. Pleased to be joined now from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, prep writer, David Quedall. And Dave, first off, hey, thanks so much for your time today. And we've only met the one time, but it's good to see your face again.
It's good to see you as well, Guy. We see each other on Twitter here and there. I know you cover the whole state damn near. So it's a pleasure to see your smiling face again. Thank you so much. But I tell you what, in this day and age, this has kind of become the norm here, the Zoom meetings, and it's an opportunity. It's been great for the Missouri Sports Network with 650,000 hits since we launched on July 1. But what's kind of been your experience and the challenges that you've faced over this past 19 months as far as just covering prep sports? Well, I got very lucky. The job really worked with me. I didn't have to go out into the field. I got to work from home essentially, which was really actually challenging in many ways, especially in the fall when, you know, the rest of the state had moved forward with fall sports, but St. Louis County and St. Louis City, I mean, they really put the brakes on that at preseason camps. And then it wasn't until October that the local St. Louis County and city teams got to actually practice and play for fall sports. I mean, we had a big chunk of North St. Louis County opt into the spring season for football. So, which actually lined up with what Illinois was doing. They moved their entire state football season because we're so close to the border. We cover a lot of schools over there too. So it was a lot of phone calls, a lot of watching press conferences online. And I mean, I did one press conference in person when the Rockwood School District announced that they were going to let their teams go outside the county line to play. But it's been a very long time since I sat in the stadium and watched a ball game, which I'm very much looking forward to getting back and doing this fall, now that I've got my shots and I'm good to go.
And before we talk a little bit about that, kind of give us an idea of your background. As you look at your camera there, I see the flag, I see some you know, possibly some military background. But how did you arrive at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch?
Well, the flag is actually my grandfather's. He served in the Pacific Theater on a boat in World War II, which was funny to the family because he couldn't use a wrench and a screwdriver if you gave him the instruction manual, but he was able to put planes back together when they told him to. So that's where that comes from. That's actually my family. I actually grew up, I did 4 years in St. Louis public schools, and my dad's job took us to Indiana, where I went to high school, middle school and high school, graduated from there, and then came back to St. Louis U, graduated from St. Louis U in 2001. Was freshman class with Larry Hughes, who some folks might be familiar with, and those guys. So then I got a job here at what was the weekly paper, the St. Louis Suburban Journal. I started in Jefferson County and celebrated my 20th year with the company in June, actually. June 4th, 2001 was my first day on the job, and I'm still here, which in this line of work is a hard thing to do. So I'm particularly proud that I made it 20.
You bet, especially with the changes that you've probably seen just in the print media. There's been so many changes.
Well, when I started, we would design a newspaper that went out twice a week, and then it turned into a once a week paper. And then about 7 or 8 years in, about 2010, it turned into, well, we're doing online, and then we'll work on the paper. And then the Suburban Journal newspaper itself folded, I want to say about 2013. They decided that it wasn't going to be printed anymore. And then our prep sports work actually started going into the Post-Dispatch around that same time too. Because I actually work for stlhighschoolsports.com, which is owned by Lee Enterprises, which also owns the Post-Dispatch. So we're all in the same family, but I'm in a different subcategory, if you will. I don't get to hang out with Benjamin Hockman and Ben Fred on a regular basis and stuff. We don't see each other at the office. Then again, hardly anybody's been at the office the last 18 months. So.
Right. Well, as we head in now to this fall season, you know, who are some? Well, and we'll talk about football here first, and maybe, you know, basketball, you know, down the road a little bit, or maybe in the next show, maybe in our next visit. But football wise, you know, what are expectations there out of teams in your area? I know DeSmet was basically a college team, you know, a year ago. CDS has had some success, and their coach there is actually from Bolivar, where I live. He had been the head coach at Bolivar High School maybe 20 years ago before he went to Staley and then made his way down to MICDS. But where does the power lay on the football side there in St. Louis?
Well, you mentioned the familiar names, in particular DeSmet, who has kind of been battling with CBC the last 4 years for supremacy in the Metro Catholic Conference, which also includes St. Louis U High, Chaminade, and Vianney, who, after a very impressive run not too long ago, winning 2 Class 5 state titles, has fallen on significantly harder times than before. Kyron Williams is at Notre Dame now. That tends to do those things. But DeSmet is still, I think, a step ahead of CBC, even with all their graduation losses. DeSmet's biggest move or addition this year is they hired Coach Carl Reed from Lutheran North. Coach Robert Steeples took an assistant coaching position with the Minnesota Vikings, leaving an open spot with a program in the midst of a real resurgence. I mean, it wasn't that long ago DeSmet was 0-10. I mean, they went from the basement on under Coach Steeples all the way back to the pinnacle of winning the 2019 Class 6 title. So when they had this opportunity to bring somebody in, they went and got Lutheran North's coach Carl Reed, who won the 2019 Class 2 state championship and had an incredible game, which I was fortunate enough to witness with Lamar in the state semifinals. I mean, it was rainy, ugly. Ronnie Perkins, recently drafted by the New England Patriots, played in that game. And because of a missed extra point, because those things matter, Lamar found a way to win 7-6 on a muddy, ugly day, went on to win, I don't even know what one, the 6th or 7th or 8th in a row. I mean, God love Lamar. They were incredible. So that was DeSmet's biggest addition. So we're going to be interested to see what Coach Carl Reed can do with that team. CBC has been young and kind of taken some lumps the last 2 years after dominating in 17 and 18 with the group they had. So it'll be fun to see who comes out on top, because of the way the districts are put together. They're going to have to see each other to advance to the Class 6 semifinals more than likely. I mean, unless they separate them, and the Misha office in Columbia, I don't see how two schools 2 miles apart are going to not see each other in the district. So whoever comes out of that will probably be representing the area in the championship game. Class 5, Chaminade is back, but St. Louis U High is a Class 6 school now I think about it. They're going to be much better, much improved. Lutheran North, losing Coach Carl Reed. They brought in a guy who had been at Rittner. Coach Kyle Wagner has done something incredible. He got hired at Rittner during the pandemic, coached them through the spring season, was hired to coach at Sykeston, but was there, I think, a week before Lutheran North's job opened up. So he resigned from Sykeston before he coached a practice and took the Lutheran North job. It's incredible. But there is a very talented young team at Lutheran North, which is going to make people miserable in Class 3. Cardinal Ritter, a semifinalist last year in Class 3, who lost to Blair Oaks in a very, very good game. They're going to be back with a pretty good group. Actually, here's a team that's not going to be around. Trinity High School, which won the 2018 Class 3 title and had some really great games with teams across the state during the playoffs, but with Lutheran North in particular. That school is no longer in existence. It folded. So a team to keep an eye on is St. Mary's, who we're very fortunate here in St. Louis. Our football talent it's not at the peak levels it has been recently, but it's really, really good. And St. Mary's has a young man by the name of Kevin Coleman, who's the #1 prospect in the state of Missouri and one of the top 2 wide receiver prospects in the nation. The #1 guy is named Luther Burden, who had been at Cardinal Ritter, but transferred to East St. Louis over the winter into the spring of the previous school year of 21. So his situation is unique because he played half a fall season with Cardinal Ritter, who didn't get to start, like I said, until October, transferred, and then played the mini season Illinois put on at East St. Louis High. So he actually played 2 football seasons his junior year. And oh, by the way, he was our offensive player of the year because he was incredibly exceptional in every time he touched the football. So Cardinal Ritter will be good. St. Mary's has Kevin Coleman. They got the quarterback, Christian Cotton, who had been at Trinity. He transferred there. So that's going to be fun. Class 5 Fort Zumwalt North remains one of our best teams in the area. They in battle in Columbia have had some really epic ball games between one another, be it in the playoffs or the regular season. So I'm looking forward to see what they can do. Marquette is a public school here in town that's kind of on the rise in Class 6. So Jefferson and Deschênes in the small schools. Lutheran St. Charles has a bunch of talent, including Arlen Harris Jr., a Stanford-bound running back who has racked up all kinds of numbers, but wasn't healthy at the end of last year. So it's going to be a very exciting fall. And compared to last year, it was so truncated and so many unknowns. And some kids got to start, some kids didn't. And I don't know if you noticed this watching ball games, but everybody told me that the lack of off season in the summer was really evident as the school year went along in football and basketball in particular. So it's going to be interesting to see with a more normal, and I use quotes, normal off season, what we can expect out of these guys and the coaches. But it's going to be fun. There's going to be a lot of good football up here.
Yeah, you mentioned Lamar, and obviously you've got the web cities, of this area, and Cassvilles, Mount Vernon's, Monettes. That Big 8 conference seems to thrive. But I can remember going back to you talk about CBC and DeSmet maybe not being, having to meet in a district. I can remember, I believe, didn't Ladue and MICDS playing a state championship game in Class 4?
The year after they played in a district championship. That's right.
Yeah, and they're a couple miles apart too, aren't they?
They are. They are on the same road. They call it the War on Warson because that's the road. And I mean, they're separated by a mile, if that, and they ended up on opposite sides of the bracket. I mean, they say they use those rubber bands to group the schools, but some of those, it's like that rubber band's really stretchy. Like, the class 6 district, it's kind of stretchy when suburban St. Charles is traveling to suburban Kansas City, but it is what it is. But yeah, they played in a district 2 years in a row and then met in the championship game. And actually in basketball, Webster Groves and Chaminade played for the class 5 title. And the next year they played in a district semifinal.
That's great.
It's interesting how those things shake out.
Right now in the summer, I don't know, how much you know about the Springfield area. I'm actually in Polk County where Southwest Baptist University is up in Bolivar. Polk County has the highest per capita COVID positive test in the country. Greene County is right behind. What are you hearing there? Because there's a lot of talk about, maybe by this time in August, in the next month, the numbers are doubling if people are not in this area, just not going to get their vaccines. And, a possibility of maybe shutting down, Greene County sports and Polk County sports, similar to what the city did in St. Louis a year ago. What are you hearing there?
Well, the conversation today, as the hospitals and medical folks are kind of looking at it, as the numbers are going up here. I mean, across the country, we're seeing that. I mean, obviously, Southwest Missouri is at the heart of the latest, roughest, toughest stuff right now, and it's just heartbreaking to read about all the healthcare workers who are back to this just unimaginable grind of trying to help people through this situation. But the conversation today is whether or not to issue a mask mandate, because that was rescinded when the CDC announced that vaccinated folks didn't need to wear a mask. And so St. Louis County, St. Louis City pulled theirs. I think the next morning it was taken away. But now they're talking about, they're asking everyone to please, when you're in public out and about, to whether you got a shot or not, cover your face just to tamp down the spread. But that's it. There's no conversation about not having sports. There's no conversation about school getting disrupted. I mean, my kids did online school last year. They're in elementary, so they're older than kindergarten, but not quite middle school. So they didn't know how independent they truly were, but they weren't staring at a computer screen, not knowing what to do either. So I got very lucky in that aspect, but there's no talk of them not going back to school. So that's what we're doing here. But I think, as we all know, like, things change pretty quick depending upon the situation. And I think a lot of kids in high school that I talked to, the senior class this past year, were very reflective on just to not take anything for granted and not assume it's going to be there, because prom, graduation, football games, all that kind of stuff got so disrupted. So while today we're on track for an August 9th first day of practice and week 1 here later into August to get football and things rolling, but I mean, who's to say that the situation doesn't get out of hand and then we're all back in our shelters hoping that it goes better. So, but as of right now, everything is on track to play it out, see how it goes.
We're visiting with Dave Quedahl from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. And Dave, as you look at next year, maybe just a little bit about basketball. I know Chaminade, the Bass Pro Tournament of Champions, has kind of unveiled their field. Chaminade is a part of that. What do you know about Chaminade?
Well, the Red Devils are an interesting team because, I mean, they have traditionally been one of our better programs the last, about 15 years. David Lee, Bradley Beal, Jason Tatum have all come through. Tyler Cook is an NBA player. I mean, they've had some really great teams come through and make an impression at the Bass Pro Tournament while doing it. But their biggest player, actually, he was our All-Metro Player of the Year here in the city, Terrace Reed, the big 6'10" center who helped them get to the state semifinals last year, where they played obviously the championship Kickapoo team that went on the next night to win. He transferred to Link Year Prep in Branson. He's not going to be around with the Red Devils this school year. So I'm curious to see what happens. There has been some discussion about they might be getting some other kinds of kids coming in. Local school here named St. Louis Christian, which was not a Misha school, but it was a Misha affiliate. So they were certified to play against Misha schools. So, I mean, they would play the Vashons of the world, the Chaminades of the world, and their students came from all across the country. Now, there's talk some of their kids, now that the school is folded, might enroll locally, including a very, very talented young center who, rumor has it, is looking at Chaminade and is headed there, but I have not confirmed that. That is just the speculation on the street. But they have a great senior guard in Damian Mayo. They got a couple of younger guys who were key pieces last year, a couple of twin brothers. Oh, I wish I could have the Strutter brothers, who were big pieces for them getting a state last year. I think it was the sixth time in 7 seasons Chaminade made the state semifinals, which, I mean, anytime you're doing that is pretty impressive. I mean, and that doesn't include Jason Tatum's sophomore year when they didn't win a district. So they've been really, really good, and I expect they'll be really, really good again. CBC, again, with Jason Tatum's dad, Justin Tatum, their coach, they're going to be in the mix again. DeSmet was booked for the Bass Pro last year before it got called off. They'll have a very talented group. They'll be really good too. And then Cardinal Ritter, who won Class 3 in 2020, won Class 5 in 2021. They got a group that's young and hungry and ready to go back and prove that they're no fluke. So I just, I like football, but growing up in Indiana, I just love basketball. And then my first taste of the Bass Pro, I want to say, was when Chaminade got brought down in 2016, and I just fell in love with it. I mean, there were a lot of people moaning and complaining when Misha moved the state championships to Springfield. I was not one of them. The facility is great, but just the energy in the room of people who love basketball, it's unmatched. I mean, of all the things I missed last year working from home, being in the gym full of people on an electric night, there's just nothing like it. So good hoops up here, and very much looking forward to Bass Pro 2022. I expect to be a very good Red Devils team coming down to see what they can do.
What does the rest of the summer hold for you? I mean, the fall practices won't start until August 9th, and you've got volleyball jamboree starting anywhere from the 24th through the 28th. What's kind of on your docket right now? Are you a big Cardinal fan? Which last night could have, had to talk yourself off the ledge after blowing that 5-run lead. But what does the rest of the summer hold?
Well, I'm on vacation for a few more days. I'm enjoying it. My parents live here in town, so my kids get to spend the day with grandma and grandpa, and I don't, which is nice as an adult to have alone time to read a book and do those kinds of things. A lot of mowing the yard, catching up on stuff like that. But then next week we're going to start doing our Super 30 countdown, where we count down the 30 top high school prospects in the senior class. A lot of them have either verbally pledged to or have received offers from the University of Missouri. I mean, Mizzou's been Coach Drinkwitz, man. I don't know what he's put in that punch, but everybody wants a taste because they are coming. And some of the best kids we have committed there already. And what I found so fascinating is our defensive player of the year, Makai Wingo from DeSmet. He was the Class 6 defensive player of the year 2 years running. He was our defensive player all Metro last year. He was the first guy to commit locally to Drinkwitz and proceeded to sell everybody he could to come and play in Columbia. And that has only continued. So I don't know if the Tigers can get in on Luther Burden, like we talked about, the East St. Louis wide receiver, #1 in the country. He's currently committed to Oklahoma, but has decided to take his visits because during a pandemic, he didn't get to do that. So who knows? Maybe they can get some of that punch into his mouth, and he'll be down there too. But we're going to start counting those down here next week. So STL High School Sports and STLtoday.com. You can read all about the local boys who'll be putting on the pads and helmets and playing ball this fall. You bet. Well, hey, it's been a pleasure, and I really appreciate you being generous with your time, especially on your vacation. I didn't know you were on vacation, but happy to do it. Hey, I look forward to many more moments like this, and maybe once a month or whatever, we can kind of get together and spend 20 minutes talking about sports here on the Missouri Sports Network. But Dave Quedahl from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and thank you so much for being a part of it today. Thanks, Guy. I appreciate your time. All right. We'll be back after these messages here on KICK 92.3.
welcome to the Scoreboard Guy Network here on the Missouri Sports Network, powered by KICK 92.3 out of Springfield, Missouri, home of the Royals, and presented by Central Bank of the Ozarks, Great Southern Bank, Chevy Dealers of the Ozarks, and Play It Again Sports. Certainly glad you tuned in, and as always, the Missouri State Highway Patrol reminds us to take that 3 seconds and buckle up. It's 3 seconds that could save your life. Well, we go a little bit down south here in Central Missouri. Gainesville Bulldogs head coach Blake Hobbs is with us. And, Coach, you got a suspended game from last night that has now been suspended yet again. Talk about getting that start, and you were supposed to play at Forsyth today. Tell us the latest.
Our game, well, originally it was supposed to be played at our place yesterday, and we had our field. We were up at 6 a.m. getting our field ready to go. And then all of a sudden a pop-up shower came in. And then today we saw the storms coming in. We were just like, it's better just to wait till tomorrow. There's supposed to be 0 rain. So we're just going to wait till tomorrow to get it in. It's been.
And is it still going to be at Forsyth? I know you had moved it to Forsyth. So will that still be a location?
Yes, sir. Yep.
And this is a game against Marionville. Marionville comes in at 20-6. There's already a run been scored, I believe. I believe it's suspended in the 4th inning. Kind of give us an idea. It's not often you get to visit with a coach in the 4th inning of a game at the high school level. But where are you at right now? What's the situation?
They are currently up 1-0. We're in the bottom of the 4th inning, and they're up to bat. They're the home team for this game. But yeah, no, it's been a back and forth. It's been a good pitching duel. Obviously, with the change of day to being able to play, you're gonna have different pitching. But no, right now it's a good pitching matchup, and there's been some hard hits. We had the opportunity to have a run in the 1st inning. My 4-hole Andrew Hamilton hits one off the wall, and probably the best relay I've ever seen in high school baseball was performed by Marionville to throw Aiden Yarger out at the plate. And then Marionville did their job. Their 2-hole hit an absolute rope to left center, and we bobbled the ball, and their aggressive base running got them the lead.
Going back, through your districts, you're Class 2, District 6, you're a member of the Summit Conference. You got Sparta, you run rule them 15-0. Then you go to a 12-inning game with Seymour. Kind of take us through that 12-inning game with Seymour.
That was a nerve-wracking game, let me tell you. We got up on them early, was up 1-0. And then Jake Leaker, he threw an absolute gem on the mound. But Seymour battled the entire game on him. That was the best I've seen them hit off of Jake. That's actually one of the best I've seen anybody hit off of Jake this year. But they ended up tying it in the top of the 6th or top of the 7th to send us into extras, and it was just 5 innings of both teams got runners on third base, I think, in almost every inning, but we just could not cash it in. We had a situation where we were on the mound. I brought Aiden Yarger in, who's just a sophomore, and he threw a fastball right down the middle. Kid popped it up. He caught it and tracked the kid down at third base by diving to get him out at third. Then the next inning, Jake Leaker, my best hitter, comes up. They 4-pitch walk him. Wyatt Alms, who's 0 for 5 to start the day, sees first pitch for a strike, and then next pitch, a low fastball at the knees, and I don't think I've ever seen a prettier swing. He just unleashes on the ball. Then,
so this game right now, Marionville leads 1-0. It's the bottom of the 4th. Is it the beginning of the bottom of the 4th, or where?
Yes, we are gonna. They're gonna lead the game off, just starting out bottom 4, no one on, no one out. It's basically just like they're the away team now.
What's the pitching setup now? Because now you're going to go. You've went 24 hours. Now you're going to go 48 hours. So, what is everybody available for both teams, or how does that work with the pitch count?
That's kind of been a question that we've all had, and we got we can't just overlook the fact that we could play Monday if we win, and Marionville's doing the same thing. But I believe it's still, if you weren't allowed to pitch on the day that the game was originally scheduled on in playoff baseball, you're not allowed to pitch in that game, no matter when it's rescheduled. So we're going to see a lot of different faces, a lot of different guys than what I think both coaches were expecting to see. So
now, just a little bit about your background. This is your first experience here on the Missouri Sports Network. Haven't had an opportunity to visit with you, except earlier today. We've tried to do this 3 or 4 times, but the weather here at the Missouri Sports Network home office just would not allow for Wi-Fi or even power at some points. But tell us a little bit about your background and how you arrived at Gainesville.
I'm actually from Willard, Missouri. I played 4 years at Willard with Coach McGee. I was a part of his first 2 state Final Four runs my freshman and sophomore year. And then after Willard, I went to SBU. I played 5 years there. Never really got to play a full season with them, but I battled injury after injury. And then I spent 2 years coaching in the summers with 417. Realized this is something I just absolutely love doing. Got on after COVID-19 cut our season short. I started looking for jobs just because being 23 years old, it's time to grow up a little bit from what I needed to do. So I saw Gainesville had a job opening. They had the PE position that I wanted. So I got on, applied, and Mrs. Armstrong, she's basically made my dream come true. So.
Coach Hobbs, I certainly appreciate your time, and best of luck. Tomorrow we'll be paying attention. Hopefully we can catch up with you later on down the road.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You bet. And we'll be back after these messages.